So this next video is basically a slight experiment. I'm going to be looking at the Goodreads sort of lists, I love lists, of most anticipated books coming out in 2020. Now I have no idea of what's coming out in 2020 really, like zero. So I'm going to try and get myself slightly excited about books. So I'm going to have 5 different lists that I'm going to look through, and I'm going to select one book that I am interested in every list, and then throughout the year we'll see if I am actually interested in them. Now, let's see. YA novels of 2020. That is my first list. Let's see. So the first book I found is, oh gosh, seriously? Is Yes, No, Maybe So by Becky Albertalli and Aisha Saeed, which is a book about two teens, Jamie Goldberg and Maya Remen, who meet going door to door, sort of volunteering and flyering. Which sounds adorable. I love everything by Becky Albertalli. She's one of my favorite YA authors. And I'm quite excited about this one. I think it's going to be very good, and it might be quite sassy considering the political situation in the world at the moment, but also hopeful, and I think it's going to be quite impactful, and I'm quite excited about that. Now let's do a list of fantasy books in 2020. Okay, straight away, V.E. Schwab books. Basically, apparently there's going to be another Threads of Magic series, which is going to be in the same world as the Darker Shade of Magic. Now, I've not read the third one yet, but luckily the Threads of Magic don't actually have a release date yet. But knowing V.E. Schwab, it could literally happen next year, and I'm quite excited, but also nervous. But the book that is set to release next year is The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue, which is basically a retelling of Faust, I think, which sounds awesome. Oh, I'm so buzzing about that. So that's definitely on the list now. I'm glad I'm doing this. This is really successful so far. Okay, next I'm gonna be doing thrillers to publish in 2020. Oh, I don't know. I don't read a lot of thrillers. We'll see. Okay, as a surprise to everyone, I found one. It's The Sundown Motel by Simone St. James. Now this is about, I'm hoping, a haunted motel. That would be fantastic. And if it's not ghosts, I will be slightly sad. But it's a book that I'm quite interested to pick up in 2020. One second, I'm going to check when it actually comes out. 18th of February 2020. Alright, I can get behind that. That's a thing. Okay, next, let's look at adult romances in 2020. Okay, the book that caught my attention there is Grown Up Pose by Sonia Lalny, which is about a woman in her 30s who is separating from her husband, and has to tell her very sort of conservative family, I think, and is trying to learn what she wants on her own. I'm not sure if it's a romance, but it's something that I'm maybe interested in. We will see. I don't tend to pick up a lot of romances, but adult romance books anyway. We'll find out. Yeah. It looks, I think it's going to be quite diverse, which is nice, I think. But I'm not really certain what kind, so I'm not going to say that here. I'm going to have to look into it. Okay, next I'm gonna look for most anticipated non-fiction memoirs? Something like that. Okay, there's an adult romance that I think I prefer, and it's You Deserve Each Other by Sarah Hogel. And it is a story about basically two people who fell in love, got into a relationship, are getting married, but are now absolutely sick of each other. Find out that both of them are sick of each other, but have an agreement that the person who breaks up with the other has to pay for the wedding bill. And then try sort of sabotaging each other and doing different pranks, which sounds so much fun. And I'm quite excited for that. I think it's going to be good. Yeah, so that's a thing. I didn't think this is actually a very, I'm saying this after every piece of new book I found, but I'm quite excited for that. All right, let's do this 2020. Okay. I ended up looking at the most beautiful covers of 2020, and I found Woven in Moonlight by Isabel Ibanez, which is apparently a fantasy, slightly fairy tale-y story, I think rooted in Bolivian politics and history, which sounds really cool. I know nothing about Bolivian history, which would be really cool to find something out and learn new things. And it also sounds like a very good sort of fantasy story. So that's another one. And one more is gonna be, I'm gonna look at more of the lists. 1 second. Okay. The last book that I found is another fantasy book, and it's Come Tumbling Down by Shannon Maguire, which is another story from the Every Hearted Always series, which is one of my favourites of the year. So I'm quite excited for it, but I hope it's not very similar to the second book, Among the Sticks and Bones, which I was not such a fan of. So I hope it is different than that, but we'll see. So this was quite useful for me. I hope it was quite a little bit useful for you as well. Seeing what kind of books are coming out next year. It wasn't comprehensive at all. It was just me sort of looking at books I've not heard about before and trying to see if I'm interested. We'll see if I actually pick them up this year, if I'm actually that invested, and how many of these I pick up this year. There's absolutely no pressure to read them in 2020, but it's just something on my radar. Okay, bye.